The goal is sensual pleasure, and sensual pleasure is just an automatic, complicated endeavor. Because the senses are never satisfied from material stimulation. So you've got to have more complicated ways to stimulate them. Higher thinking is beyond this material world of material success, enjoyments, pleasures, and thinking about our true identity and what is good for me, the spirit soul. I see you're in the beautiful caravan.
Yeah, exactly. Caravan studio.
You should do one from your tent.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe that's the next episode.
That'd be a cool one.
That'd be maybe that's when we should do simple living, high thinking.
Yeah, there you go. Simple living, high thinking.
I guess problem is just because you're living simply doesn't mean that you're thinking high. Just because you're living in a tent doesn't mean that you're advanced.
No, but that's half the formula.
Yeah,
that's 50%.
Yeah, so you got 50% right at least.
Yeah, so you got to just readjust the other half. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I guess that's the question how we do that, because it's true though. It's very easy to live simply, or maybe it's not, but it seems easier to live simply than think high. At least easier in the start to just move out in a tent and become,
Yeah, because if you're living really complex, then it's much harder to have high thinking.
Yeah. So that's the idea. Yeah.
Much more likely to think low.
But yeah, life. Yeah. So the idea is, if we uncomplicate things, it becomes much easier to focus on the right things. Is that a correct conclusion about simple living, high thinking?
Well, yeah. I mean, high thinking is a very difficult task anyway in today's world.
Yeah.
Because all the influences are making it so our consciousness and therefore our minds and focus go to lower places.
Yeah.
I mean, all the advertising, all the agendas that are, being exposed in the world, and all the promises of happiness and pleasure are all on a lower level. And the educational system, everything is promoting, low thinking, really. So, to achieve all the goals that, are presented to us, then we have to have a very complex society and live a complex life as a functioning member of that society, which is monetary gain and, increased sensual pleasures through acquisition of all kinds of toys and et cetera, and experiences and this way and that. But it's all, focusing downward to the material world, the material levels of passion and ignorance.
Oh.
And so that's not going to promote high thinking.
Why does that have to be complicated? Why does that mean that we have to complicate things just because we're...
Because the goal is sensual pleasure, and sensual pleasure is just an automatic, complicated endeavor. Because the senses are never satisfied from material stimulation. So you've got to have more complicated ways to stimulate them. you know. And of course, sex desire is so prominent, in all of us. I mean, that's just built into the species, not only human, but throughout. So, therefore, that's the biggest promise of happiness. It's the biggest illusion of all. It's the biggest promise which produces the least results. And that becomes a very complicated story. There's one of our stories, we'll say, in Vedic history about a Brahman, and he was Brahmins are like the priestly class, the high-thinking division of the Vedic society. And he was living a very simple life, and all he had basically was just a loincloth, a little water pot. He begged for his food, like a renunciate kind of position. And he was doing okay. He was fine with that. High thinking, that was, his agenda. And that's how he was living. Very simple. But he only had 2 loincloths, and this was his only garments. And every day he would wear one, wash the other one, and hang it out to dry. So one day, a mouse stole his loincloth. So then he's thinking, gee, I only got 1 loincloth now. I need to have another loincloth. So he got another one, but then somebody told him, it's going to happen again. You need to get a cat. So, okay, so he got a cat to protect against the mouse. So then he's got the cat, but now he's got to feed the cat. So then the next step was, well, you need a cow to produce milk to feed the cat. So, okay, so he got a cow. And now he's got to spend time taking care of the cow, milking the cow, feeding the cat, and so on. So then the next solution was, you need a wife. So she can milk the cow, she can take care of the cat, etc. And then you can go about your other duties. So he got married. And then, having a wife without children is not productive. You need to have some children. No, let me back up one step. So he got the wife. Oh, now you must have a house. Can't have a wife without a house.
Yeah.
So he got a house.
Of course.
And then he got to that point I was just mentioning.
Gotta have kids.
Of the kids. So he had the kids. And now, he's got so much complication. He's got the cat, he's got the cow, he's got the wife, he's got the house, he's got the kids. He's taking his whole time just to work and maintain this whole, thing that he's created.
All to keep.
And,
yeah.
Huh?
All to keep his 1 loincloth.
Yeah, and so one day he's just sitting there thinking, I said, oh man, what a mess. I should have just let the mouse have that loincloth.
Oh,
and so that's how it, kind of goes. It just gets more and more entwined in
that's true.
So many different ways in many different directions.
And we always find a reason. Like there always is a reason. But I need this. But I need this, and then I need this.
Yeah.
But you'll always.
And of course, those who are in the position to do so, they want to capitalize on this. So, like the monetary system, first, you worked, you got your money. It was in cash. At the end of the day, okay, at the end of the week, you had X number of dollars, we'll say, or kronas, or whatever currency your country uses.
Kroner.
So you got this much, right? So you spend that. This is how much I got for this week. Next week, I'll get the same amount, so you spend that much. So it keeps you in a certain area of, acquisition.
Yeah.
But then here comes the banks and the credit cards and, all the things to make it so you can buy things with money you don't have. You can get things that you wouldn't be able to purchase otherwise. And we will give you, $5,000 credit. So you can spend $5,000 this week and just pay it off in time. Don't worry. And the interest rate will be low. We'll give you a low interest rate, and then so you buy into that, you buy your $5,000 worth of whatever pleasure it is, it's all for pleasure, right? And then other banks see that. Oh, this guy's a good customer. He pays his credit card debt on a regular basis. So then they send you their offer. Oh, would you like to have our card? And we'll give you $8,000 credit right out the gate. No credit approval. So you got a second card, and then you got a third card. And pretty soon, in your mind, you've got access to $20,000, $30,000 just right now. And you can just gradually pay it off. And pretty soon you're so buried in debt, you basically never get out.
And that's a very good example of how we complicate things. I mean, that's complicated.
Yeah. And along the way, you bought all these things you didn't really need, and, if it produced some pleasure in the beginning, it's worn out by now, or you need to upgrade it or replace it, or, whatever the next step is in this pursuit of happiness, or you took that vacation you would have never taken otherwise because you could have never afforded it. But now you just put it on the card. Or here comes Christmas, and, before you could just give enough presents to the people that you could afford to, and very simple ones. Now you can expand the people you can give presents to and satisfy all the demands of the wife and the kids, or the, whatever, if you're the wife, the kids and the husband, to expand it all and make everybody happy. And at the end of the wonderful Christmas season, you're buried in debt up to your eyes, and you're just under the gun all the time, and you just see no way out.
And by the way, that's the same with student loans. They tell you that it's such a good interest rate, so it's better to just take those money, and you can even save them. So they promote to just take the full loan, and then you're sitting there afterwards and you're paying every month several thousand krones to pay this loan
for the rest of your life.
The rest of your life. So they actually make you have to work full time, plug into the system to have to repay that thing. So.
And in most cases, that education that you paid so much for didn't really work out. You don't even work in that, profession.
Exactly.
I know a person in Toronto, and he was, well, I don't know, he's older now, but at the time I'm going to refer to, he was like 44 years old, driving a courier truck, delivering letters and packages around. He had to work every day, 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week, and why was he working so hard? He wasn't married. He didn't own a home. He lived with his parents, etc. But why was he working so hard? To pay off his college loan, his university debt, I said, what are you doing, man? You see what happened here? Complicated. So complicated life. And once you got a taste of getting those new things and enjoying this, enjoying that, it's like another addiction, mode of passion just drags you on, and I can't afford this, I shouldn't do this.
That's true.
But I can do it because of this system that I'm a part of. So you do it against your intelligence, it's a bad idea, but you do it anyway.
And it's kind of like you're living a loned lifestyle, because you're living a lifestyle and you're living to impress other people. You want to impress your friends. You want to be a part of that group, but you really don't have the income to do that, say, but you're, so you're kind of renting your way into it. There's a saying that I was thinking about, that we buy things that we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like.
That is so true. That is so cool. Yeah. So the Vedic system paints another picture of life from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Because in the Vedic system, the educational system is the opposite of what it is in the material system. So we learn in the very beginning, from the time we begin to study in this area, that we're not the body. And no matter how much you spend and put your energy into, a better material life, it's not better.
Yeah.
And it just gets more and more complicated.
Yeah.
And you'll never be happy as a result, because you're not the body, you're spirit, soul. And how can, doing all of this for material pleasure of the body and mind make the soul happy? It can't. So that's the system that is taught. That's the truth, and it's actual truth. Whereas all this other stuff is an illusion. It's not true. Oh, this water in this desert. You see, look, there it is right there. It's a little bit distant. You got to maybe even run if you're really thirsty to get to it, but you can see it. I mean, your eyes are perceiving water, a lake, etc. And you run and run and run, but it's a mirage. It's not there. It never was there, never will be there. So it can't satisfy your thirst.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this whole material illusion is a mirage. None of it is true, But we complicate more and more and more. And when your whole, focus is on this entanglement, you're forced into this now because of what has happened. How are you going to think about higher goals?
Yeah, exactly.
Would you like to go to a meditation class?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to, but I don't have time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're so stressed out that we turn to material solutions, some kind of intoxication, okay, let's just bore it out for a while.
Yeah.
Alcohol or drugs, or
forget about this complicated life that I'm living in, and then the fact that I can't really find the happiness. Complicate it even more. That's true.
Then we wind up, with addictions and dependencies and, strung out on a whole bunch of medications.
And probably do things that we will regret the day after, and stupid things.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But, so I guess most people will be in the situation when they listen to the podcast that, like I feel that I am as well, for that sake, but where we have complicated things. I think a few of us are listening to this podcast and are fortunate enough to already have a really simple life, and then just be able to apply some high thinking. So how do we uncomplicate our life to the point that we can, if we are that, like in that story, does the story end there with where he has the house and the wife and the kids, or does he?
Yeah,
is there
it ends there.
Okay. So
his realization was, I should have just let the mouse have the loincloth. But it's kind of like,
it's kind of
too late.
Too late, exactly. That's what I was going to get to.
I mean, you can't just dump the wife and kids and all the other things.
No, exactly. And that's not our point either. That's exactly what I wanted to get to. That's not the point. The point is to leave all your...
And we're not saying that, we're not promoting that.
Yeah.
Because in the society we live in today, it's possible, but it's very difficult. And, we have to just take a gradual withdrawal approach. Number one, quit further complicating it. Don't keep adding fuel to the fire. And number two, realize that, see, it's all about desire, isn't it? And if I'm convinced that all this complication and increasing that in complication will somehow have a good result, then I'm going to continue to do so. That's my desire, because I want a better life. I want a better result. So you have to realize, well, that the better life is not going to come from going in that direction.
Yeah.
I have to change course here.
Because the desire is the same.
And
I mean, the desire isn't the problem.
I have to gradually back out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So quit piling more difficulty on top of the difficulty, but just gradually minimize, start controlling the mind, controlling the senses, and so just practically speaking, become more associated with the mode of goodness. And what does that mean? That means getting I'm not even entering into the idea of spiritual activity yet.
Mm-hmm.
That's because for some people that's just too far-fetched. But you can, associate more with the mode of nature. And we've talked about this a lot already in previous podcasts.
Yeah.
Get out in nature. Yeah. Find your source of inspiration and relief from taking a simple walk in nature. Take your wife with you, take your kids with you if that's, the situation you're in. Let everybody start experiencing a better direction in life. And the whole family, not just you, go out and it's better, and you leave the wife and children at home in their complicated world.
Yeah,
try to encourage everybody to come out and, do and explain to them. Talk about it. That's what a family unit should be, for it to be really, a coherent, tight family. Discussion should be had.
Yeah.
Let's talk about why our life is so messed up and how we can make it better and, encourage, a better lifestyle in the diet, in the exercise regime, getting out in nature, looking more at the wonder of nature and then gradually maybe understanding this is all the creation of a superior power, superior person, and all this is going to have a very positive effect on simpler living. I don't need to go to a movie. I can sit and watch a sunset, or, I don't need all these gadgets. I can just cut them all off for today.
Yeah.
There's one, well, not one, but there's one very well-known sports person in the snowboarding world, Jeremy Jones. And, he talks about this on some of his videos. He goes on long excursions into the backcountry in winter. He's an extreme snowboarder and he takes his whole crew, but they're making videos and so on. But he says, I never feel more alive is when I'm out here. There's no connections. There's no computers. There's no phones ringing. There's no business, demands. I'm just here in nature.
Yeah.
And he sees it as such a relief. It's a healing process. But that's been known throughout time. There's a saying that nature heals. And, well, this is an interesting example.
Mm-hmm.
I recently, a few weeks ago, we had a yoga meditation day with some new people in the mountains here.
Mm-hmm.
And this one girl attended. She'd been to some of our programs before. And anyway, at the end of the day, we were walking back down, and she was telling me about she's got a very difficult time in her marriage. And she's got 4 kids, and her husband and her don't get along very well. And she had her whole, what do you call it?
situation?
story, yeah.
I don't know.
You know, testimony.
Oh.
Yeah. You know. So anyway, we talked about some things and gave her, tried to give her some pointers that she could implement and so on. So anyway, then I didn't see her for about 3, maybe 4 weeks or something. Then she came again to one of those days. And she said, and she'd been married for 10 years. And so she said, now our relationship is so much better, And she said, I said, what happened? And she said, well, last weekend, my husband went by himself for a day or 2 days in the mountains.
Wow.
And he came back and he told me, the mountains heal. I realized I got to change. I got to be a better person. I got to be more kind and more patient. And she said he's actually completely, taken another direction in our relationship. is so much better now.
Amazing. Wow.
So, and she said, the mountains heal. She said that.
Wow. So true.
So anyway, that's just a current story that I, heard from one side and the other side. And it's true, so that's the mode of goodness. That's the best influence of nature that we can have on us. Mm. And then you incorporate that with, a healthy diet, a vegetarian diet, if at all possible to entertain that idea. It's much more conducive to, a better consciousness, a better outlook on life, a more peaceful environment inside, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you start combining some of these, still, material ways to do things, and it has this simple effect. And so, if we want to have a couple of segments, we can, maybe cover the other part in the next segment.
Yeah, we can maybe do that. I think that's a good idea to start with. There are some good ideas to start with.
Yeah, of course, we can expand on this subject. And I'm talking to the choir here.
I know.
Well, I'm not talking to the choir because we're talking, to, a broad audience here.
But that's somewhere to start. And let's have a little kirtan and then we can continue in the next part.
Yeah. Hari Bo, Nitai Gaur, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Hari Bo, Nitai Gaur, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bo.
Hari Bo, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bo.
Hari Bo, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bo.
Hari Bo, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bo.
Gauranga, Hari Bo. Gauranga, Hari Bo. Gauranga, Hari Bo. Gauranga, Hari Bo.
Gauranga, Hari Bo. Gauranga, Hari Bo.
Gauranga, Hari Bo. Gauranga, Hari Bo. Gauranga, Hari Bo. Gauranga, Hari Bo.
Gauranga, Hari Bo. Gauranga, Hari Bo. Gauranga, Hari Bo.
Hari Bo. Okay, so we're back. Part 2.
So we spoke a little bit about how to decomplicate your life and how to make it more simple. I don't know if there's anything else you like to say to that topic, but then also I guess we need to see and look at what does it mean high thinking. What does that entail as compared to what we already spoke in part 1. So those are
good question. Good question. And maybe you'd like to add something to that, what we talked about in part 1.
What more? Well, what more could I say?
Well, here's another little addition. I lived I home based still, but I can't say I live there now because I'm always somewhere else. But in this little mountain town of Crested Butte, it's a very unique mix of people. There's people from all kinds of professions that live there, from investment brokers to bankers to, IT people to, people who had, maybe a bigger business of some type, et cetera, et cetera. But they at one point decided that, this is not making me happy. I'm living the corporate life, or I'm living, this life or that life, whatever it was, and I'm miserable. And they had high educations, master's degrees, doctorate degrees, etc., high salaries, and they just gave it up. And somehow, Crested Butte just collected a bunch of these people.
But that's,
maybe maybe they came there initially just for a skiing vacation because it's a ski town, or maybe they came there in the summer, because it's very beautiful in summer and whatever. And they just went, wow, this is small. This is simple. This is, it feels good here.
Yeah.
And so whether they'd ever been there or not, they somehow wound up there. And now they're just working, some of them as dishwashers, some of them as a clerk in a little souvenir shop.
Yeah.
Or, they're doing whatever it takes to just pay the rent and make enough to buy some food and some outdoor gear, and they're much happier. Their life is much simpler, and they're much happier as a result.
But I was going to say something in that direction. So it's funny that you mentioned that example, that dare to, like you told me the other day, if you normally have to give something up to gain something, you might have to close some door to make a change in your life, and dare to do that. Why not? Like, what do you got to lose? The prestige, living for what everyone else thinks about you. Who cares? Why is that? Are you gonna live your whole life according to what everyone else wants and what they think is a good thing, and your family and whoever? Like, is that, or is it them that you're gonna live for, or are you gonna live for some higher truth, a higher purpose that you in your heart feel like this is a direction that I should go? So
and a better life means I'm more happy.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm more relaxed. I'm not, living in stress every minute of every day. I'm just kind of freed up from all these difficult obligations and pressures, and the peer pressure, the boss on my back, the societal pressure, the whatever, keeping up with the Joneses pressure, and on and on. And you're out from under that, and it feels very, enlivening. And then you can say, well, wow, that worked. Why don't I, go in this direction further? And so that's where we enter into, a spiritual, area of life. Because no matter how simple and how, gratifying a material life may be, it's limited. There's only so much enjoyment I can get from nature. There's only so much enjoyment I can get from climbing this mountain or surfing the biggest waves or, going on the longest trip or, meditating on a sunrise. In fact, that was one of the things I used to do when I first started.
I was going to say, yeah.
This kind of a approach. I never was living a complicated lifestyle anyway, but when I started, approaching it from a spiritual angle, then, sunrises, for instance, were a promise of some higher experience. And I'd, make some dedicated effort to get to a high place.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see the sunrise just as it came out of the ocean, because I was in Hawaii at the time, and it rose out of the ocean. So I could see it first. If I'm lower, I would see it later. So I wanted to be high so I could get the first vision, the first glimpse. And anyway, I would arrange it, and it wasn't that difficult, and I'd be there, and I would just meditate on this sunrise, and obviously it comes out of the ocean, it gets bigger and bigger, and but there was only so much pleasure there. I mean, no matter how much pleasure I was trying to suck out of that, there was only so much. And it was amazing. It felt good. It was beautiful. You felt a lot, but it was definitely limited, And so you got to carry it to another dimension, because in the material dimension, there is definitely a cap.
Right.
And that's all there is. You've got what you can get,
And what if you then feel this feeling of a little bit loneliness or emptiness, or there must be something more? Then where do you go? You got to go somewhere then, because obviously.
Well, you got to go to the spiritual dimension, because very few people have done so, but some people have. Basically, they understood. I've gotten everything I can get from this material situation. Anything I could envision, and I'm talking about the ones who entered into, the more natural mode of goodness, simple experience, which is a higher experience than the mode of passion experience or the mode of ignorant experience. I mean, in the Vedas, it's called rasa, or the taste, the actual taste of the experience. And, you've gotten what there is to get. How much taste is there in an ice cream? I mean, there's only so much there. How much taste is in a waffle? There's only so much there. So anyway, you've gotten that, and you've gotten that. You're not in some illusion, but there's another one somewhere else. I mean, well, I've already gotten what there is to get here. So the only other possibility is a spiritual taste, a spiritual experience, which is on a very, very subtle dimension, much, much more subtle than the most subtle dimension of mode of goodness. So, we talk about subtle, but
yeah, I was going to ask.
You can take, for instance, the enjoyments of a city, with all the things cities offer, and that's pretty gross. I mean, that pleasure, that stimulation, that whole bang, so to speak, that's pretty gross. But when you go into nature, it's subtle. It's on a finer level. It's not so rah.
Yeah.
It's calm and quiet, peaceful.
Yeah.
Just like in music, there's gross music, heavy metal and all that, and then there's subtle music. The music, the ambient music. The sounds of nature are much more subtle. That's why it's recorded oftentimes as relaxation music. The sound of the sea, or the wind in the trees, or the birds singing, or the water running over the rocks, you know. I mean, that's so much finer or more subtle than the sound of a rock band,
And
you know. So it
and
has
most,
a different effect.
yeah, and most of us don't put the sound of the traffic in our alarm clock to wake up to in the morning. You know, I mean, it's, yeah, the sound of nature is much nicer, much more calming, much more pleasant.
Yeah. So that when I speak of grosser and subtler,
Uh-huh.
this is how I'm explaining it.
Right. So you were saying that.
So if you talk about spiritual life, it's much more subtle again.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so the feeling is on a subtler level, a deeper level, you know, and it's not in the mind, you know, it's not in the physical, it's deeper than that, you know, and you know, to try to explain that is very difficult, you know, because we use material words to try to explain a non-material experience, and that's very difficult to do.
Yeah.
You can refer to it, you can kind of point in that direction, but you can't really convey that.
I see.
Just like the subtle feeling of love, you know, although it may not be pure love in any way, but songwriters and poets have been trying to put that into words since the beginning of time.
Exactly.
And if you've never experienced love, all you've experienced is the poems and the songs, and you think you know what love is about, and then when you experience the real event, you know that the songs and the poets and the song were limited. They couldn't take you there. You know, there's something there that you didn't get from them. So it's the same thing in spiritual life. You know, it's on a whole nother level.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we can understand that, you know, it is superior, it is more fulfilling, it is more satisfying, and it's real. It's not a mirage. See?
Yeah, we can.
Even nature's still part of the mirage.
Mm-hmm. Still material, and we can still, so we can kind of logically deduce or conclude that through knowing and making the logical conclusion that I'm not my body, but I'm a spirit soul, and then, but to have that experience is on a different level than knowing it in theory.
Yeah, exactly. It's called realization.
Yeah.
So
realization.
That's who we are. I mean, we are spirit souls, and so life is an experience, but a real life, meaning the life of the soul as it is intended to be lived, is a spiritual experience.
Mm.
It touches us. It satisfies us. It also convinces us. You know, it's where real knowing appears. And so we have to start moving in that direction. And it can be baby steps.
Yeah.
It can be just, it starts with a thought, entertaining the idea, you know.
Higher thinking.
Or maybe it comes with an experience and you start analyzing the experience, and so maybe the experience happened before the thought of that appeared.
Like, for example?
Well, you never thought about spiritual life and the spiritual experiences or felt it.
Mm-hmm.
But then something happens that takes you into contact with that.
Yeah.
You have that experience on some level.
Yeah.
And then the thought follows. Wow, what was that? You start thinking about it. You start maybe, you know, being attracted to it.
Yeah.
You know, just like the person who's the, you know, corporate person came to Crested Butte to go skiing with no thought of leaving his corporate world.
I see, but
Giving up his job and all that. When he came there and he experienced that town and that lifestyle and saw the people that were living it already, and how, their life was so much different than his, he started thinking about it. So the experience brought about the thought. So it can go both ways. Anyway, that's the point.
And it's easier for him to do that. If he lives a simpler life, it's going to be much easier to to implement these things or do the things that is necessary, because you're not bound up by all these have tos and should dos and must dos and demands from everyone, and
Well, yeah,
much more free.
And another thing, this material example is, we're still expanding on that to help us understand. But if he stays in his corporate environment, it's going to be really hard for him.
Yeah.
Because of all the people he's around, all his association, his obligations, et cetera, et cetera. In other words, even though he wants to kind of unplug, it's going to be really hard if he stays there. But if he comes to this little town and everybody else is, in one sense, unplugged, then it's easy. He just comes in there and does what they do. And it makes it so much easier. He's not trying to play corporate anybody. He's just another guy who's, experiencing, this small town and, the mode of goodness. And, of course, there's passion and ignorance there too. I'm not saying it's all mode of goodness, but you get the point. It's association that makes it easier for him. He has a conducive environment.
Right.
So it's the same in spiritual life. If I, have a conducive environment for spiritual growth, through associating with those who are already doing it, or maybe, just thinking about doing it, or inspiring each other to do it, and, et cetera, it makes it so much easier and so much more likely to be successful.
Yeah, exactly. Because let's be realistic, we're quite weak. At least I am. We're easily influenced in many directions that are not conducive for us. And it's hard to be strong. It's hard to be an island and just, yeah.
Well, yeah. You got no support.
Yeah.
We need support systems.
Totally.
Everybody knows that. Anybody that's trying to change their life seeks out a support system to help them do it.
Yeah.
Whether it's a mental support system, or it's a, trying to get rid of an addiction support system, a drug, whatever. It's always, you need support.
Yeah.
To help you through this. So why would it be any different in a transitioning from a materially focused life to a spiritually focused life? Why wouldn't it be the same? You need a support system. And that's, what is one of the things we're taught in the Vedic terminology. Not terminology, but Vedic teaching.
Mm.
We need association. We need a support system. We need to be associating with like-minded people, who are also enthusiastic, and, they're inspiring us, and, we inspire them too. It goes both ways.
Yeah.
They're inspiring us. We inspire them. And, it's necessary. If you try to do it alone, if you're really determined, you can do it. But birds of a feather flock together. You kind of gravitate to like-minded people, And if, like, again, you go to this town, Crested Butte, and everybody there's like-minded in the sense that we're here, what? Because of what we can experience here.
Mm.
All the amazing nature right out the gate, So if you're into any outdoor sport. It's available there, and so is everybody else. And so, there's so many people to share it with, or so many people to go do it with, or, whatever. So, there's a common thread, if you will.
Yeah.
And
For sure.
so we need that in spiritual life also.
We should.
So if you have something you want to say, something you want to share, there's someone who can appreciate it.
Yeah.
Like in Crested Butte, if I talk to some guy who knows nothing about mountain biking about my mountain bike ride today, man, I wouldn't. This happened and that happened.
I see what you mean. I see what you mean.
So great and blah blah blah. They just look at you like, yeah, so what? But if it's a fellow mountain biker, then they go, yeah, wow, and then they tell you about what they did today, and it's like, yeah, you can relate, they can relate. It's like, a sharing of experiences. So it's the same in spiritual life, And somebody says in that town, let's go for a mountain bike ride. Yeah, let's go. So somebody says, let's go to a kirtan. Let's go, and chant together. Let's go do some yoga together. Let's go have a vegetarian meal together. Yeah, let's go.
And just the fact that they understand you makes it so much easier, and they appreciate the value in that. Like the mountain biking guy, he would just think that you're like, why would you mountain bike? That's just stupid, wasting your energy out and pedaling in the mountains. Like, why would you ever do that? And then that's not very, I mean, it's not going to help you. It's not going to motivate you and feel like you're inspired to do this more. But if you have a person,
the main thing is you don't even talk to that guy.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it's a waste of time.
But that's a good lesson for spiritual life as well. We need to discriminate. Where do we spend our time?
Yeah.
Who do we listen to? Who do we speak to?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so they see what you're doing as something of value.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not wasting your time. That was cool. You did the best thing you could have done today.
Exactly. Yeah.
In the mountain bike thing, and the same in spiritual.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we had a wonderful gathering last night. We had beautiful kirtan.
Yeah.
We studied our scriptures and so on like that. Wow, great. When's the next one? I want to come. Or somebody's just getting into it. They're just kind of looking up to the people who are already doing it. As somebody who knows more than I do, and they're kind of like, they're not officially so, but they're my guide. I mean, they're doing something that they're really into, and I appreciate that, and maybe I can learn from them. And it just, we feed off of each other, and no matter what we do.
Yeah. Good
things, bad things, spiritual things. It's the same. We feed off of each other.
So that's So that's a big clue on us how to, decomplicate your life and live more simple and also think higher. You hang around people who have a higher thinking.
Yeah, so back to your question in the beginning, what is higher thinking?
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, but I had it in the back of my mind. I think you kind of covered it. But maybe you could summarize it.
But anyway, higher thinking is beyond this material world of material success, enjoyments, pleasures,
Yeah.
and thinking about our true identity and what is good for me, the spirit soul, But higher thinking, we can take it back to the material dimension. Thinking about mode of goodness things is higher than thinking about mode of passion and ignorance.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
I mean, that's higher too. So it's not only just limited, higher is only limited to spiritual subject matter. Thoughts and so
at least gradually higher than where you are right now, and everyone's at a different point. So what may be higher for someone may not be where you're wanting to go because you're at another point.
When you go higher, there's no need to go back.
Yeah.
But when you were lower, every step up is higher than
Exactly.
the
The
step
previous one.
below. If you're in the mud, just getting out of the mud is higher than being in the mud. And then you just gradually go. Mode of ignorance is the lowest. So if you're just in the mode of passion and less in the mode of ignorance, that's higher. It's still not good enough, but it's higher. And then mode of goodness is next step up. And getting out of the bars, for instance, that's mode of ignorance. Okay, so you're in the bar, you're just in the cigarette smoke and the stinking alcohol fumes and, the like-minded people who are just gross to be around because, mode of ignorance is not a pretty picture to someone who has a higher vision. So you get out of that and just, you're in the city, but you're not in the bar. You're in the city, you're maybe just going to a movie, but it's not a bar.
Yeah.
You're eating popcorn and drinking a soda rather than, vodka and cigarettes. But it's better. And, then, you kind of go on up and now you're, spending your weekends, somewhere in nature, in a national park or hiking or, whatever you're doing, and that's higher. So it's moving up.
That's
And
wonderful.
From there, you can go to, the contemplation of and application of spiritual thought and spiritual activity, And,
I think we need to wrap up, but that's a wonderful idea. I think that's very inspiring, at least for me. Just go step by step higher. I never realized in that saying, simple living. You could say simpler living, higher thinking. gradually simpler living, and gradually from where you are a little bit higher thinking. And
yeah, if necessary, we can touch on these ideas again. Add a few things or
let's see.
whatever. But simpler living doesn't mean selling everything you own and living in a hut somewhere or living in a tent or false renunciation is not part of our process. Simplify. Everybody can simplify.
You're
okay. So I guess we ended up with another little kirtan. Time goes so quickly.
Yep.
So the mantra is going to be Gauranga, Haribol, and let's see, what will we do? Haribol, Nitai Gaur, Haribol.
Yeah. Perfect.
Gauranga, Haribol. Gauranga, Haribol. Everybody. Nitai Gaur Hari Hare Bol, Nitai Gaur, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hare Bol, Nitai Gaur.
Hari Bol.
Hare Bol, Nitai Gaur, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hare Bol, Nitai Gaur, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. Gauranga Hari Bol, Gauranga Hari Bol. Gauranga Hare Bol, Gauranga Hari Bol. Hare Bol, Gauranga, Gauranga Hari Bol, Hare Bol, Gauranga, Gauranga Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Right. Thank you, Balakhilya. Thank you, everyone, for listening in.
Thank you, Ruben. Yeah. So we are hoping that, things that Ruben and I present are, something that you can see, you can apply in your life and make your life better.
That's what we hope. And if you're wondering how to do that, or if there are any questions, then we're very happy to hear from you. So to do write us or send your comments or yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I've got to run. Thank you so much. See you next time.
See you, Balakhilya. Thank you. Namaste. Hari Bol.
Namaste, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.